Welcome Praetors, Doug here from 2 Plus Tough, and I recently did a video about the various command and high command choices that are available to you when you play Horus Heresy, specifically if you're playing the Astartes lists. But by going through those heroes, there was one I hit that had a very heavy asterisk, and that is the Librarian. This is simply because part of the Librarian's entry is that he gets to choose different disciplines of magic, up to 2, and they all have their own point cost. I think one of them's free. And so what we're going to do in this video is talk about that. It's difficult to grade how useful that hero would be because he is his own big toolbox. I think it definitely deserves its own video. And so what we're going to do is quick start looking at the stat line of the Librarian, who's going to be able to have access to these. And then we're going to go through the actual disciplines one by one and have a quick discussion about them in more detail. And just be on the lookout for anything that rings a bell with rules relating to your legion. Because like I said, this is a toolbox unit. Anyone can use a librarian and you can make effective use of one. But there are going to be legions who have, let's say, a predilection towards certain kinds of magics or maybe certain effects on a particular unit will maximize their potential, really force multiply them. And since the various schools of magic hit a bunch of different points of the game, just be on the lookout. Now, one disclaimer to throw up here is that when you choose your librarian, you obviously then choose the different magic disciplines or psychic disciplines that you want them to use. However, you have to actually read them, and we're going to go through them one by one for this reason, because they are a big mix. Some of them are psychic tests, and then you just get the effect. Some of them are weapon characteristics, so you almost get like a special magical attack in instead of your normal attacks, kind of a thing. Others are reactions, though, meaning you have to pass the willpower test to make the manifestation roll, and then spend a reaction point to be able to use them. Now, they're super effective, like they do great things, but that is a high cost. So I'll try to point out as much as possible where this all goes as far as like, you know, what resources you'll need when things trigger. And the other thing I want to note before all of these, there's 6 disciplines, is that in addition to the special rules you gain access to, like the spells you can cast or the weapons that they use, every librarian model will gain 1 universal special rule. So this is like Fear 1 or Hatred Infantry or something like that. Something that makes this specific librarian just a little bit different / more interesting themselves. And then there's also the rest of the abilities that they bring to the unit. And so we'll begin our discussion with the humble librarian again, just a bit of a more focus than our last discussion. He comes in at 85 points. He has a command option, which means he unlocks another auxiliary detachment for you. He's movement 7, weapon skill 5, ballistic skill 5, strength 4, toughness 4. He has 3 wounds, initiative 5, and 4 attacks. As for his mental stats, he's got a leadership of 8, a cool of 7, willpower 9, and intelligence of 8. And for his saves, he is a normal kind of commander on foot, so he's a 2-up save and then a 5-up invuln. He comes equipped with a force weapon, so be mindful, some legions allow you to exchange a force weapon for something unique that they have, so that's something to consider. A bolt pistol, a frag grenade, and a crack grenade. As far as options go, this model may have its bolt pistol exchanged for 1 item from the legion's pistol list. Which again, if your legion synergizes with a specific kind of weapon, be mindful of. Models may have up to 2 of the following psychic disciplines selected for it. And these are our list here. So we have Biomancy for 20 points, Pyromancy for 10, Telekinesis for 20, Divination for 20, Thalmaturury is free, and Telepathy is 10. So we have kind of a middle-of-the-road, lesser hero stat line. Like, you don't want this guy to be the forefront of combat. That's not really where he excels. However, we will see that as we go through the various universal special rules that you get for buying these different disciplines, this little hero can be kitted out in a lot of different ways. So let's kick it off by talking about Biomancy. Biomancers are the masters of fleshcraft, abilities that allow them to empower and enhance living creatures. Apologies for the glare, the sun is killer, but this will be mostly an audio experience. When you take the Biomancy discipline, which again, 20 points, you gain impact strength. So this dude, when he charges, now your librarian has +1 to their strength value. That's awesome. And you gain, and it lists off the different abilities that you gain. So you have the Biomantic Slam, Biomantic Rage, And then your War Scroll will also gain the Biomancer trait, and that's just some effects matter for that. It's just a keyword. It's not like a special rule in and of itself. So that's what you give. Impact Strength is their Librarian upgrade. And then Biomantic Slam is a melee attack. -3 to the initiative. It's 1 attack. Comes in at Strength 12, AP 2, Damage 2 with Armor Bane and Force damage. This is your Librarian walking up to a tank, turning their fist into iron and trying to punch through it. That's my interpretation of that. Over here on the right, we have Biomantic Rage, which is a really cool ability. This power is used in the charge subphase to add a bonus to the unit's strength and toughness. Essentially, when you're about to charge, you're going to make this check, this manifestation check. If it's successful, you cannot make a volley attack against whoever you're shooting, but all of the people in the target unit gain a bonus of +2 to their strength and toughness characteristic for that round. So if you are sending somebody in, you can turn a unit into a missile, which is fantastic. This next to a unit or alongside a unit that has a ton of attacks, increasing their strength and toughness, they're going to be able to deliver and take attacks. Personally, I would take the Biomancer on any weapon skill 5 unit, because that going into a weapon skill 4 is just going to be a blender. But even going toe to toe, the math helps immensely here. If it's like 2 veteran units going at each other, it swings it pretty hard. So I like that a lot. Now, the way that I see this discipline functioning is you put your Librarian with a weapon skill 5, a kind of an elite infantry, and they can either go absolutely shred lesser infantry, so like basic tactical marines, despoilers, that kind of thing, or have them go after heavier targets and swing above their weight class. Now, this ability where he gets to like punch a tank, I don't know if that would necessarily make me want to lean heavily towards anti-vehicle stuff. It's not like that remarkable. It's a good attack, but I see that more as a nice to have than the essential part. I mean, Armor Bane and Force damage, yeah, it's good stuff. It just, I think the charge ability is way more spectacular. +2 strength and toughness on the charge, so that that first round is going to be integral for delivering the most amount of punishment possible. Next, we'll move on to Pyromancy. Only 10 points for this one, and this is very simple. It's probably the most easily accessible of the schools, simply because it gives you 2 weapon profiles. If you wanted to attach a very special psychic weapon to a unit, this is how I would go about doing that. As far as rules that your Librarian gains, they gain Explodes 4 up, meaning when they die, you're going to roll a die, and on a 4 up, they will explode and hurt the unit around them, which is amazing. There's 2 weapons. One is ranged, one is melee. There's Wildfire, which is ranged 18. It's 1 attack. Remember, they're coming in at ballistic skill 5. Range strength is 4, AP 4, damage 1, and this is a blast template where they can apply Panic 1, which is awesome. Absolutely love that. And then the other one is Conflagration, which is a melee attack, and that one is going to be -1 to the initiative modifier. It is 6 plus D3 on the attacks. Strength is 5, AP 4, damage 1, and Deflagrate, which is any unsaved wounds then translate back into being hits. It's pretty cool. Legions that immediately come to my mind are like Night Lords want to apply status conditions, and so being able to do that with a pie template, a 5-inch template, everybody gets Panic 1. When they natively create fear themselves, Night Lords, a lot of their heroes and units can. That's fantastic. I will say though, Explode 4 up means that you need to be very careful about precision weapons. Precision in this game means that if you roll the value to hit, so let's say the precision 4 up, if you roll a 4 or higher, you as the shooting player get to allocate what models those go to. So they could target your Librarian and detonate them in the unit that they are, explode on a 4 up, way before they get a chance to do anything. So that's going to be your biggest fear, but there are units that can prevent things like precision, so it's an option available. Next is Telekinesis. Let me check the points here. Telekinesis clocks in at 20 points. Let's see how they can justify that. This librarian himself gains the Shrouded on a 4-up, so this is essentially him hiding in the shadows and the mists. It gives him a different kind of save. He comes with 2 abilities, Force Barrier and Immovable Force. And Force Barrier is very simple. You're going to do your willpower test, and if it's successful, you essentially give a shrouded damage mitigation save to a unit that's either in the shooting or assault phases. Now it does cost a reaction point, that's important. It's you're being attacked and then you're adding the save to them. However, it is a 3-up shrouded mitigation test. So be sure to ask your opponent, do you have any way to mitigate shrouded? There are a few pieces of war gear that will allow that. So before you spend your point, make sure with your opponent that that's going to work. But a 3-up damage mitigation save is really big. That's what I mean when I say when it costs a reaction point, it better be worth it. If you are trying to deliver a unit of Terminators or something chonky, I don't see any reason why that would be a bad spell to have in your pocket. The last ability here is Immovable Force, and this is sort of the attack he gets. It's a ranged weapon. It is 18 inches. You're going to fire 3 shots at Strength 6, AP 4, and Damage 1. And the rules it has are Pinning 2, again, another status effect debuff, that's great, and Force Firepower. And in case I didn't say what it was before, Force and then whatever the stat line characteristic is, allows you to essentially double whatever stat is listed there, and then roll it, if I'm not mistaken, roll an additional die, putting you at risk, a high risk of rolling for Perils of the Warp. But in this case, it would bump his 3-shot weapon to a 6-shot. So if you're trying to really land the pinning attack, that's not a bad idea. To be perfectly honest with you, I'm working on another video in the background about apothecaries and how much they've changed this edition, how they really kind of had they have now a strange place within the army lists for Space Marines. But if you're going to spend a reaction point, I think that this ends up being a better way to mitigate damage on your opponent's shooting phase or attack phase, whereas the medic only helps you in the shooting phase. And it's on a 4-up. That is to say, in terms of just delivering a melee unit, I do think a Telekinesis librarian is the new apothecary in terms of this is how you mitigate mass damage as a reaction. Will it shake out that way as the meta continues? I don't know, but in terms of just picking a hero and giving them a few upgrades to allow them to protect the unit they're with, I do rank this higher than the 30-point apothecary. Keep in mind, as far as I know, the apothecary can join as well, so you can double them up. Nah, but that wouldn't really work because you would need reaction points for both of them. That's going to be tough. And all that to say, I really like him. For keeping a unit alive as you deliver them, it's fantastic. Also, that him personally having Shrouded on a 4-up is going to help him when it comes to things like precision. The bane of existence for the Pyromancer is less scary for the Telekinesis Master. We'll pivot now to Divination. And this one, let's see the price here. Divination comes in at 20 points. And for the universal rule that you gain, Duelist Edge 2. So what Divination is trying to represent is kind of a bit of foresight that your librarian gains. So Duelist Edge give you +2 to whatever the focus result is during challenges. So if the librarian gets into a challenge, he's at a higher chance, naturally, of striking first because he sees what the enemy is going to do in a thematic sense. So I like that. I mean, this is the addition of heroes getting into challenges, so cool. And for this, he gets a Gambit and a Psychic Power. So let's go through these here. The first one, every strike foreseen. If this Gambit is selected, the controlling player must make a willpower check. If it's successful, then in the strike step of the challenge, any hit tests made for this model are successful on a 2-up regardless of weapon skill characteristics. So because he can see what your enemy's going to do, you can land the shots. It doesn't matter if he goes against a Primarch, he will hit on a 2-up, which is really good. Remember, he's got a force weapon. You can equip him with something cool. So as a Gambit, I actually like that quite a bit. Now the psychic power that he gets is also incredible, and I do agree this one's worth 20 points. Essentially, you can pick a unit in the shooting phase. It's not a reaction, so you just get to try to do it. And if you pass your willpower test, you give the unit precision 5-up. So all the things that you were scared of when it comes to them sniping at your heroes, you can now project onto them. Now, Divination ends up being my favorite of the psychic powers. I'm just going to throw that out there, because it brings a good mix of force multiplying. If I want to get rid of something, I can pick a unit in my army and have them do that, while also leaning into the game mechanics that I personally dug enjoy, which is challenges. There are countless Black Library books where librarians are badasses, right? Like they're Space Marines plus, and treating them like the old man wizards, like in, say, Age of Sigmar. It's kind of that reoccurring joke of like the necromancer in the back, this fragile little thing who's really powerful at spells, but you get them in combat and they're toast. That shouldn't apply to Space Marines, or librarians rather, because they are Space Marines. So having a hero that is like, I can mess you up in challenges. The average character that he's going to fight against, he can mess up in challenges, provided you equip him the right way, and the ability to add precision 5 up to a unit flat with some of the attack values and some of these things, like how many dice you're going to be rolling, is really good. Then there is Telepathy. Telepathy clocks in at 10 points. And for this one, the universal trait that you gain is Fear 1. Now, if you're not familiar with that, that is your librarian has it. So there's a 12-inch bubble around him that gives all enemy units -1 to their, I believe it's leadership, cool, and I don't know if it's all 4 of the stats, but at least leadership and cool, because it makes them more susceptible to status conditions, which are what those 2 traits are generally for. So that is great. If you have a unit or a weapon nearby that can prompt pinning tests, really honestly, I'm thinking about it, any of the status conditions, that's a fantastic way to capitalize on them. And he just attaches to that, and now that unit, or that area of units, all have the effects of Fear 1 on their enemies, which is fantastic. And this one comes with a psychic power and a psychic weapon. Now the power is interesting. Essentially, the psyker can look at an enemy or unit and force them to fall back. So what happens is they are forced to fall back. They lose all status conditions if they had any. They make the fallback move, and then they do a leadership test. If they pass, then they're just out of combat and they stand there, but your unit's free now. And if they fail, then they have the routed condition. This is one where you have to think about the unit you're fighting, if they have any abilities that would negate or modify their leadership stats to make it easier to pass, because if they don't fail the test, you've essentially just disengaged them and wiped away any statuses that you have already applied to them. So for example, I keep going to Night Lords because they very clearly like status conditions. If you did this to them and they backed out of combat and passed their test, you wiped away the thing that gives you +1 weapon skill because they lose the condition. So again, it's not a bad trait. It's fantastic if you want to free up a unit, make your enemy fall back. It's awesome. Just understand what you're risking is the status conditions on them. And then there is the weapon down here, Cursed Whispers, which is a ranged attack, 18 inches, 2d6 shots, range strength of 3. There's no AP, 1 damage, and stun. So you're gonna have to take a stun test. I rate that pretty low. However, everything else you want to do is about causing, maximizing, I should say, stun, panic, and route test, all those kinds of things. So it's at least in line. That one to me is going to be the most list specific. Like, being able to make your opponent fall back is an incredibly powerful ability. Like in every game system even that you try, being able to dictate how your models are locked into combat and where your opponent is on the board, it's immensely powerful. But you kind of have to plan for it. Like, what do you want to have happen? Do you have a counterpunch lined up and you can maximize that effect? Because doing it for the sake of doing it does nothing but push the fight further away from you, which is, again, sometimes what you need. But other times it's like, well, I mean, did you gain anything? Because if your opponent's unit has any kind of charge bonuses and then you allow them to charge into you, you've clearly had a net loss. So it requires kind of a canny aptitude for like knowing the state of the field and if it'll actually be a benefit. But if it is, which I think a lot of times it will be, the benefit is fantastic. Particularly if you're in combat, your unit has a charge bonus, you force the opponent to retreat, and then you have an ability to charge them. And lastly is the free one, which is Thalmaturury. And this is, again, anyone can access this, and since you can access up to 2, for starting, I recommend you take this and something else. At least keeps the cost down on the librarian. They get Hatred Psychers, so you're better at hunting other Psyker units. You gain a reaction called Resurrection, and a psychic power called Tranquility. So for the reaction, Resurrection here, what happens is you get shot at. As a dude is dying, you like snap your fingers and magically mend the wound and they come back. So you basically get shot out like cheese, and then you're able to bring a model back. It will matter on some units where, say, you have a lot of wounds or each model is exceptionally expensive, so it's a very valuable trait to have. It's going to depend on where they're attached to, but essentially, yeah, he lets you bring a model back as a reaction, so it does cost a reaction point. His other ability is Tranquility, which doesn't cost anything to use. It's just a check. And what this does is in a bubble all around this particular psyker is a -2 to other manifestation check. So this is essentially someone trying to quail the warp and make it harder for other psychers to use their abilities, which for a free one at least does something to level the playing field a bit. Now, I am somebody who plays with mass infantry, but I am told that other armies value their troops and have good ones that they would want to be brought back to life. And so if you have use for that, it's fantastic. Again, you get it for free. So like if you get a librarian, bring him for utility, and then throw this on, put him with a beefcake unit, it makes sense. Again, it's just another tool to have in your pocket. On turns where you are not using whatever ability you took the Psyker for, throw out the Tranquility thing to make it harder for your opponent. If I'm not mistaken, it also reduces the strength of psychic attacks, like their strength value, by 1. So let's step back and think about this, right? Remember, our base hero is 85 points, okay? We can give him a universal special rule, as well as some other abilities. Let's say you pick one of the more expensive ones, okay? So you have a 105 point hero, maybe up to 120-ish or something like that, depending on if you're going to upgrade their weapon. So for example, Sons of Horus, we have a special power axe. It would take, I think, 5 or 10 points depending on which axe you want to upgrade, that kind of stuff. Or same thing with the pistol. So for that many points, think about what you can add to your force to do that with. Now, they are a command choice, so you're automatically having some value by unlocking an auxiliary detachment. But to me, the question is, do you have units that can directly benefit from them? Do you, basically, what is the best unit you have? What are they best at? Like, what are they good at doing? And do any of these maximize that? If you're a Night Lords player and you have a fistful of Seekers and you are thinking about doing the one that gives you precision 5 up, and Shrouded as a reaction so that your guys don't get immediately blasted. Again, if that's the value unit, that makes a lot of sense. If you're like me, who loves Reavers, which is a heavy assault type, having a librarian run in like a madman with them, giving them with the Biomancy. I always want to say biologist, but Biomancy trait, giving them +2 strength and toughness on the attack is brutal. I'm less plussed about the ones that are reaction based, because I think in this edition, reaction points are like your most precious resource. That being said, the ones that are reactions tend to be exceptional. Like I had that little insert about like, what's better, the apothecary save for if a heavy unit had to walk across the field, heavy infantry. What's more protective, the apothecary with his medic thing, or the the one that gives you a shrouded 3-up? Yeah, telekinesis. The telekinesis one to me wins every time because it can be used in either assault or shooting, and it costs the same. You just have to make a willpower test. I will say that none of the psychic, the actual attack profiles, ranged or melee, really stand out as like a reason to take them, but I do see them as being nice to haves. Like if I take the Biomancy trait, right, I will have a greater force multiplier. The better value of him is ensuring that whatever he's attached to or whatever he's next to gets to use that special charge bonus of the 2 strength and toughness. Once they're delivered, a nice to have is this fist that can go through a tank. I'm not always going to be punching tanks, but when I do, I like to have a fist that can. And so it's that kind of thing where I wouldn't, none of these profiles are so incredible. Even the Pyromancy one, which is only 2 weapon profiles, a melee and a ranged one. Neither of them are standout enough to make me be like, I need a Pyromancer now. But those attack profiles are both fantastic, especially on a small, relatively cheap hero. I hope this was helpful for you. Again, leave in the comments below if you see any particular synergies between these and your specific legions. Night Lords are always looking for ways to apply statuses. For armies like me, where I do a lot of heavy and melee assaults, I look at these as ways to deliver my ultimate blow to the enemy, like the actual Iron Fist of, say, Justerans or Reavers or something like that. And so I'm going to choose a librarian that complements that. Let me know what you cooked up in the comments down below. I always pin the most helpful comments. I hope this was helpful to you. And if you like this kind of content and want to see more, please consider using any of my affiliate links in the link tree below. They will save you money at no cost to you. Throw a tip in my tip jar, which just lets companies know that stuff like this matters, content matters, and helping the community matters. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and I'll catch you in my next Horus Heresy video. Happy wargaming.